AI indicators are booming right now, so I pulled the top 20 trending indicators on TradingView, checked the code to see which ones are actually AI or machine learning, and found 4. Here's how they really perform. AI source switching. Moving average, created by Zierman, is a trend tool that wraps a genuinely heavy machine learning stack around one surprisingly small decision: which price input to feed a moving average. Instead of defaulting to close, the engine evaluates open, high, low, and close separately, and picks whichever one its model currently ranks highest. Then runs your chosen moving average type on that selection and trails it with an adaptive supertrend. Under the hood, there is a lot happening. Each of the 4 sources gets its own memory bank of past feature rows, scored by a k-nearest neighbor analog engine. This is the most machine learning dense indicator in this group by a wide margin, and none of it is decoration. The problem is the payoff. All of that learning exists to answer whether the average should track the high instead of the close, a difference that is often a fraction of a single bar on most instruments and time frames. The output you actually trade is still just a moving average and a trailing stop. It works best as a context and confirmation layer rather than a signal source. Pairing it with a structure or level-based tool would give it something concrete to confirm. Customization is deep, with separate controls for the memory engine, the neural rate, the Fisher adaptation speed, and the supertrend behavior, which is both a strength and a warning for newer traders who will not know what most of it does. The machine learning here is the most ambitious of anything reviewed, implemented with real care and no faked math. What holds it back is that an enormous amount of modeling is aimed at a very small target, so the practical edge rarely justifies the complexity sitting behind it. ML Liquidity Zone Classifier, created by FenLabs, takes a different and more honest approach to the AI label than most. Rather than claiming the machine learning finds your trades, it uses a classifier purely to score zones that are detected by classic price action rules first. Order blocks, equal highs and lows, and high-volume nodes are found the traditional way, and the model only decides how much confidence each one deserves before it gets drawn. That classifier is a real k-nearest neighbor model. Every past bar is turned into 3 features: normalized volume, distance to higher time frame levels, and candle displacement, and then labeled by whether price actually moved more than a set ATR threshold over the following bars. New zones are then classified by the vote of their nearest historical neighbors, and only zones clearing the confidence gate make it onto the chart. The result is a cleaner liquidity map than a pure rules-based version, because weak setups are filtered before they ever clutter the screen, and the dashboard shows the confidence and higher time frame bias at a glance. This is firmly a confirmation and context tool, rather than a standalone system, since it marks zones rather than firing directional entries. It pairs naturally with an execution trigger that decides what to do when price actually reaches one of those scored levels. The honest framing is also its ceiling. The intelligence sits on top of detection logic that is conventional, so the machine learning improves quality control rather than discovering anything price action traders were not already drawing. Customization is reasonable, with control over the training window, neighbor count, confidence threshold, and zone housekeeping like merging and mitigation. The classifier is implemented properly, the non-repainting labels are a genuine mark of care, and the zone filtering does what it claims. It earns the ML name in the narrow role it actually plays, but that role is scoring known setups rather than generating new edge, which keeps it useful rather than essential. Quick one. Big update. QR Pro 2.2 is live. Auto support and resistance, range filter, swing stops, real-time P and L. Link in the description. Machine learning random forest strategy, created by Gein's Algo, is the most literal interpretation of its name in this group. It builds an actual random forest from scratch inside Pine, trains it on a rolling window of recent bars, and outputs a bull probability plus an expected return that drive the signals and the target and stop lines. The construction is legitimate. Each tree picks a random feature and searches several candidate thresholds, keeping the split that maximizes information, gain measured by Gini impurity, which is the same criterion the standard machine learning libraries use. A separate regression forest predicts expected move size, and an adaptive threshold quietly tightens the conviction required after a run of losing signals. It is closer to a standalone system than the previous two, because it produces directional signals with probabilities and plots its own targets and stops, and it carries a built-in backtest table. That same table is exactly where you should set your expectations honestly before trusting it live. Customization covers the training window, tree count, probability threshold, the adaptive behavior, and the ATR-based targets, which gives you real control over how selective it is. Visualization is clear, with probability-labeled signals and clean target and stop lines that show only the active trade by default. This is real machine learning doing real work, with a probability output and risk levels that make it genuinely tradable rather than purely informational. The shallow single-split trees and the short training window are the honest limits on how much the forest can actually learn, and the backtest accounting is where you confirm whether it holds up on your market. Machine Learning RSI with AI classification, created by Zierman, is the most complete machine learning engine reviewed here, and the one where the modeling is pointed at something worth modeling. Rather than dressing up a moving average, it turns momentum itself into a learning problem, banking a rich fingerprint of each bar and asking what historically happened next. Every bar is reduced to 8 RSI-derived features, including value, slope, acceleration, percentile, and the spread between a fast and slow RSI. Those are stored with the forward outcome they led to, and a k-nearest neighbor engine finds the closest historical analogs by a weighted distance, letting them vote on direction. What lifts it above the others is the gating. A signal only fires when both a rank score and a confidence score clear your thresholds, and those scores blend analog agreement, how tightly the matches cluster, trend alignment, volatility health, and a chop penalty. There is also an adaptive supertrend whose bandwidth tightens when the engine is confident and widens when it is not. It can run close to standalone given how much filtering sits between a raw analog read and an actual printed signal, though the author clearly intends the trend gate and volatility band to keep it disciplined. Customization is extensive without being aimless, since the memory depth, neighbor count, learning sensitivity, and both gates map directly to behavior you can feel on the chart. Visualization is the strongest of the four, with a tilted MLRSI line, gradient regime fills, the adaptive trail, and clear long and short markers. The learning is real, the non-repainting labels are handled correctly, and the dual rank and confidence gate is a level of selectivity most indicators in this space never attempt. Its main risk is the same as any analog model, that unprecedented conditions have no good historical match. But as a machine learning momentum tool, it is the most serious effort in the group. A real model doesn't automatically mean a real edge, and a couple of these prove it. Try them yourself and tell me in the comments which one earned its label. And if you're trading futures or taking on prop firm challenges, we recently launched Quantum STS, a session-based tool built to help you take those challenges on with more structure and discipline.